Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Live with Little Data. I'm joined this week by Adam and Van from Magnet Monster. So, welcome, Adam and Van.
Howdy.
We wanted to have a chat about the intersection of kind of email marketing and social content. I think, I'm personally in the game of doing both and building an audience. On LinkedIn particularly is this channel we focus on, but also by an email list. And obviously, a lot of your customers are doing that across multiple social platforms. So I wanted to kind of explore, how can those two channels, or maybe think about as multiple channels, work together? How do you use social content to grow your email marketing list and get more people from top of funnel engaged and buying your product, but also vice versa. How do you best use that social content that you're developing or UGC content into your email marketing? Let's start perhaps with that way around. Van, what have you seen brands do in terms of, make the best use of that video content within their email marketing?
I think it's first and foremost, we need to just get this clear. I think when you talk about the intersection or the support between your social channels and your email channels, I have probably seen to date over the last 6 years, probably 15% of e-commerce brands doing it correctly or doing it at all. So it's an extremely few and far between tactic or strategy that people do include in their email strategy. So just want to get that clear.
Yeah.
So if you master that and you can get it right, you are a 15% out there in the market. So that's a key thing to bring forward. Now, how we like to think about in interconnecting email and social channels is you need to first and foremost understand what do you want to accomplish with doing that. Is it an acquisition tool? Is it a retention tool for you? Is it a nurturing tool, a win-back tool? What is it? Now, we like to first and foremost start with establishing or identifying, formulating the objective of this exercise. Once we do that with our clients, we then basically plot out where this activity or tactic will sit within the different stages of a customer's journey with your brand.
Yeah.
Of course, you've got acquisition, top of funnel acquisition. Then you work your way down to, first to second buying, repeat purchases. And then you also get into win backs, churn. How can you focus on that part of the business? Then you move over to loyalty. How can you get your loyal people to become advocates of your brand? Can you tap into, what they like about your product, what they dislike about it, product development, research, those type of things. And across that entire spectrum or journey with your brand, you can implement video, social with your email channels.
Yeah.
Now, if I briefly had to summarize things that I've seen across these different stages, the first big one is acquisition. If I just quickly point out some tactics there. Now, the big one that people are trying to do is they're trying to, of course, grow their email database, list growth, by tapping into their social audience. We've got some brands with 500,000 followers on their Instagram, TikTok, 300K. So of course you want to get a slice of that into your email database. Now, a couple of ways in which we've seen people do this. Of course, third-party tools, you want to ensure there is a syncing between the social platforms and your email database or your email platform. Some of the tools that we have recently discussed, High Tide is a tool that is now making big waves, where you can essentially send people a direct message on Instagram. They can reply with an emoji. Once they reply with an emoji, it essentially syncs them to your email database, and you capture them in your email database, which is,
I think it takes advantage of a feature where if someone basically replies to the comment within a certain amount of time, you can DM them. There's basically a little kind of like ability to outreach in a way that you can't do normally to your followers.
Exactly that. And I know a lot of these social platforms are quite strict when it comes down to you stealing their audiences. I'm talking about Amazon here not wanting to populate people over to any databases. So it's very, very cool that they have almost agreed to this practice. you've got that. You can also do it in a manual way. So let's say, for argument's sake, you use both Klaviyo or Yotpo. So the typical way in which you can subscribe to an SMS list is SMS 345 or SMS keyword join 5 to this number. And then once you SMS that keyword or term to a certain number, you then also get, opted into a brand's SMS database. That you can do in an organic way without using a third party tool. You just need to utilize your email service platform's capabilities. That's one that we've also seen people use. And then another one that we also that we've seen is purely just utilizing organic posts where you just link out in your short links at the top or quick links. I don't know what you call it. What do you call it? Hot links. You can purely reroute or redirect people to a sign up page that you host on your store. So there's many ways in which you can push social traffic over to your email database and nurture them from there on.
Can we just go back to the first point you said about the fact that basically not many people are doing this? Are they missing a trick, or is it just doesn't work very well for certain kinds of brands? Or
That's a great
certain
question.
kinds
I don't
of
know.
content?
Adam, do you have a strong opinion on that one? Because I do.
I think just generally speaking, my experience is that people use channels in a very formulaic way as they've been traditionally deployed. And this can be a sense of, Meta just doing direct response advertising, email just sending promos, social posts just being influencer marketing. There's generally tend to operate in a silo, and there's no omni-channel syncing of collaborating. And obviously at Magnet Monster, we've tried to pioneer and make a lot of noise on how to harmonize these channels and make them work together. And it sounds like a lot of fluff, but as an example of this, one strategy that I've tried to push in the past is when we've partnered up with brands who have really strong influencers and they do a lot of going live on social, whether it's Instagram or YouTube, that is a great opportunity to drive people onto the newsletter list. Now, unfortunately, when you propose these ideas, all the departments just end up fragmented doing their own thing. But I think it's a big opportunity to unify strategy and get teams working collaboratively with each other as opposed to just operating in a silo. So I think it's generally down to politics, reverting back to what's always been done, we have to continue with, and just lack of innovation of unifying all data and working cross-channel to support each other. Because we try and support acquisition teams even though we are a retention agency, because it's in the best interests of the business to improve the P&L. And I think that's going to be the next evolution of marketers. It's thinking beyond the confines of how do I optimize a channel as opposed to how do I optimize a business. And that is imminent, I think, due to a lot of changes that are already happening. So that's generally my sentiment with things.
Yeah, and it's so interesting you made that point that often it's the agencies that are siloed as well. Like basically the agency doing social, or maybe just even, Meta is just totally different agency that's doing email marketing, because you say this sort of acquisition retention split. Whereas Vaughn's point obviously is email marketing can be acquisition, it can also be retention, it can also be research, depends what you're using it for. But yeah, there is a silo not just from the people, but the agency level, and probably a good reason why a lot of this stuff doesn't get synced up.
I think just to add a quick point on that as well, because it's important, Ed, and obviously I know Little Data is positioned at the intersection of this. There is an urgent bias for everyone to try and claim attribution through a singular channel in a way that damages the business, in my opinion. So you will have social media or the paid media team and the retention team or the SEO team all trying to cannibalize and claim credit for a sale, as opposed to working like a team sport. And that stops a lot of innovation as well, because people all have vested interests.
Still, one of my favorite ads in the space is the Triple Whale ad from about 2 years ago, where the different channels are literally physically people jumping on the poor marketer's back, saying, "Hey, I got that one. No, it's TikTok," and they wearing the different channel colors. Because I think it sums up very well, as you say, that basically everyone's trying to claim their thing, and obviously if you've got different agencies and different teams doing all these different channels, they all want to claim. And in fact, maybe even more basically, that unfortunately we still operate in a world in which a lot of social marketing is vanity metrics, right? It's followers and likes, and actually there's not a lot of hard numbers about how much that is actually tracking through to sales.
Yeah, it's a big discussion. I mean, it's probably separate to what we're discussing today, but I mean, we could go on about this topic for hours and hours and hours because it's a big evolution that needs to happen in the space.
So, Van, sorry, we started talking about like the different ways you can use email. So as you say, like if you're what you're trying to do is acquire new customers. Obviously, as you say, you've got social content out there that's already doing that job for you, building awareness, then you might as well reuse that in your emails. But what about, as I say, further down the funnel? How can you pull in content for more like retention marketing?
Yeah. Passionate area for us as an agency. Now, the one thing that, again, we are always trying to bring to the spotlight or to the forefront when we talk about e-commerce brands is that acquisition is one thing. There is an element of, let's talk about first to second purchase, repeat buying. Two ways in which you can tackle this or handle it. The first one is, how can we squeeze more revenue, repeat purchase revenue out of this particular cohort? That's the big one for everybody, is can I just, squeeze more money out of them? And I get it. Okay, we're all trying to make more money out of our people. CAC is rising, channels are, Meta is doing crazy stuff. I see Meta is doing crazy stuff for health and wellness brands. So people are trying to really, really tap.
Is that crazy good or crazy bad?
Crazy bad. You haven't seen the buzz on LinkedIn or Twitter or X. Crazy bad. So people are really trying to squeeze a lot out of their audience. Now, the one thing that people tend to forget is that, of course, you can send email upon email upon email, SMS upon SMS, but there needs to be an element of qualitative research that you need to do around that particular cohort. Now, you can do a couple of things using social media to stimulate or encourage that qualitative insight gathering tactic. The first one, the 3 codes, there we go. Thanks, brother. The first one is you want to tap into the reason why people are buying in the first place. Like, what problem are you solving for them? And you can do it via your social media channels, is tap into that. Distribute a survey to collect, first and foremost, that info or data point about people. Why are you guys buying from us? What's the pain points we're solving? The second one is you can also easily tap into the reasons why you've stopped buying from us. Okay. And you can, once again, you can link that up with your social media, is what is preventing people from, buying for a second time. Maybe use the platform to tap into alternatives to our brand. Hey, if you don't consider the skincare brand, what have you considered in the last quarter? Now you can, get insights into, what is, a threat to our repeat buying, customers or cohorts. And then the other way in which we've seen it, work as well is use it as a product development tool. We want to vote. High Tide is a good example of a tool that you can use as a voting platform. So, hey, we've got strawberry flavor in our supplement brand: strawberry, berry, chocolate, vanilla, and something else. Vote for your favorite flavor, or vote if you want us to develop a new flavor in 2025. And if you respond with an emoji, give us a sense of what that flavor could be like. Now, all of a sudden, you are tapping into a channel and a medium that helps with product development, R&D. And that helps you in so many ways in terms of repeat buying, new product launches. It's a great medium to tap into.
So let's just go a little deeper on that. So I get how you would run a survey or poll, email. You can just have a simple click or reply type answer. But how do you do that well on a channel like Instagram? I mean, as you say, do you need a tool like High Tide to be able to process the emojis into a kind of formula, or are there other ways you could do that?
There's a couple of ways. You can either do it via, like you say, a voting platform system like High Tide, where there is some indicator showing, a response to something. You can, of course, link out to external surveys and polls and quizzes. We've seen it done via Typeform. So you link up a Typeform survey to your Instagram stories at the top. The third way that I've seen it being done is via live Q&A sessions, where people run live Q&A events on TikTok Shop or Facebook or wherever you can run it. And in that session, and of course, they utilize email to make people aware of the live event. And then there's going to be a live Q&A. There's going to be a special guest, and perhaps incentivize people that show up to this live event. And in that live event, you of course give people the platform to respond, give their feedback, even if they just respond to a poll on the live event. If you can't get people to actually speak up. And the fourth thing that I've seen is I've actually seen one-on-one consulting happening through social channels, where it's a one-to-one medium. Book a consultation. I've seen people link a Calendly link from their social, where you can book a one-on-one call with me as a health expert, and you'll have a 15-minute chat. Those
and
are
obviously
all
it's the best kind of way to get
tied-
product feedback.
That's all tied to qualitative surveys, and again, you can tie it back to your email database, your email efforts, your retention marketing efforts. It's powerful, but people don't tap into it enough.
So, Adam, we talked earlier about influencers and the fact that obviously if you're the kind of brand that's working with people that have a big social following, that might work. But there might be a perception, people listening to this, that it's only really the kind of social content is only really going to help, or be worth pulling into your email list if you have some sort of influencer celebrity attached to that. Do you think it can work well with either what I would call sort of brand, more advertising type content, or with more like founder-led content, more sort of actual, guess what we're doing here, so talking to camera type content?
So as you know, Ed, one thing I've always said is that email as a channel is also a content distribution channel. So that basically means that if you have, let's say, video content and you generally post it on social media, there is absolutely nothing to prevent you sharing that over email. And in fact, if it's value added content, why wouldn't you? And most people don't do that because they think they can only use the channel for one specific purpose, and that is to share 20% off, buy one, get one free offers. So I think you have to, going back to what Wiehan said, reframe how you approach the channel. First of all, that is absolutely critical, and realize that there's other functions, other goals that you can have from email. And just to speak to some of the results that we've generated in the past. So I remember working with a pillow brand that created a pillow to help with neck pain when people sleep. Now, in their post-purchase email, I remember they basically had a video showing stretches for neck pain, and there was like 50% click rates in that because it was sending people back to a landing page on the website where they had some videos they created showing people how to stretch their neck out for a better night's sleep. So that's just one use case of how it could be used.
So it could be educational content as much as
Absolutely.
just cool sort of brand content. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what about, obviously a little later we talk quite a lot about, abandonment flows, retention from kind of add to cart abandonment, checkout abandonment. I mean, to what extent can you use video content there to maybe increase that credibility? It's obviously one of the main reasons people do drop out, the buying processes, because they're just not sure, it's the right product for them, or, maybe they need more of a testimonial or something like that.
Yes, so I think my perspective on this, I'll be curious to hear Wiehan's, is I would personally not send them to different pages because we're assuming, right, that we know the objection why they hadn't purchased. I think it's much more important to overcome those objections on the product page. So essentially that would mean just having the right content and video specific content, if relevant, linked to the page. And obviously, if you have something embedded into the product description page, there's nothing to stop you pushing that through dynamically to an abandoned cart with some type of placeholder. So that's how I would approach it from that context.
What similar viewpoint, or do you think would you just focus those abandonment flows on just here's the checkout, get to it, or do you think there's sometimes room for other forms of content there?
So my flavor to this is if you've got a Euro SKU in your store, a clear Euro, I sometimes prefer building out the abandonment flows to be something a little bit more juicier because it can be quite clinical and transactional, which is perfectly fine because that is the nature of that flow. But if you've got a Euro product, I've seen amazing video content out there, customers speaking about the product, the founder speaking about it, humorous posts or video content around this Euro product, exceptional video content that is not being used in the right areas. Now, surely people have already seen enough of the product to add it to their cart, right? It's not like you need to re-educate them. But I feel like there's sometimes a trust element and an excitement element that people don't bring forward in the abandonment emails enough. But it's sometimes only really possible if you've got a Euro SKU. Otherwise, if you've got a catalog of 5,000 SKUs, how do you focus your content to not be too generic? So I think there's different use cases, but I've seen exceptional cart abandonment flows using video because there's a Euro and the videos are super creative and don't just splash some generic video on there that's pointless. But if you can bulk it up with some motion, I like that.
I agree with that, but the only thing I would not necessarily push back on, just preach caution on, I suppose, is obviously if you're dealing with a store that has multiple, maybe dozens of SKUs, then you're opening up the Pandora's box for permutations of complexity. For example, they might have that as one of 50 products in their cart, and then they abandon, and then all of a sudden you're giving them
Correct.
Convoluted messaging that doesn't necessarily help the customer journey. So
only if there's a clear Euro. Yep.
Yeah, Wiehan, like I've been the master of overcomplicating things in the past because you can go down a rabbit hole of trying to think you're being super clever with marketing, but a lot of the times it can be based on assumption, and you can be making your job a lot more difficult in the long term for not real incremental gains. So you have to.
Complexity basically breeds bugs. So you end up like you outweigh any like clever personalization with just basically broken flows.
Yeah.
I think so let's get back to the point about list growth. So I think the really interesting point we haven't talked enough about is like a lot of stores think about email list growth as like we need to get them to the landing page. We need to put that Klaviyo pop up in front of their face as fast as possible and get them to put in their email for whatever reason we think they're going to do that. And obviously, I think we probably all have views about kind of aggressively putting that in your face when you first land on the first landing page is kind of it is wrong. In fact, one of the brands we work with, I won't name them, but they have the Klaviyo pop up appearing before you've even accepted cookies, and you haven't even like I don't even know what this page is about yet.
It's probably us who set that up.
Probably. But I mean, it's not all about that, right? What are some of the ways that brands can grow their list without getting people to their actual storefront?
Do you want to tackle this, Wiehan?
I mean, it's a big topic here. How many hours do we have here?
It's 5 minutes.
5 minutes. 5 minutes. Look, I mean, that is definitely the trend we've seen since we've been in the industry. I mean, people do want to capture as much of their store visits as they can because you've just paid, if you're heavy on, paid traffic, you've just paid for people to visit your store. Of course, you want to capture that. But we've seen a lot of bad things come from that. Like you say, it triggers at the wrong time. People just take email as a sales channel. Correct. Now, some of the ways in which I've seen and our clients are utilizing their newsletter pop-in forms in different ways is, of course, the big one that is around zero-party data. How can we capture insights from people that subscribe to our newsletter list? Because there's this big notion of now you collect people in your email database, maybe a first name and an email address if you're lucky. You don't know anything about them. So how do you personalize them? How can you have a strong positioning, of your product if you don't know too much about them, their pain points, their shopping preferences, their alternatives, their buying readiness. And when are you looking to buy something from us? Is it tomorrow, next week, next year? Having these data points at hand enables a lot of capabilities for a business in the immediate messaging after they've signed up and in the future. So that's a one thing that we of course see. It's been a trend for a while, but that's one we constantly push: is can we capture more, data from that audience?
But
Now, a lot of the times,
is that
yeah,
the point of email capture or later in the customer journey? I mean, you're not advocating for a long form right on the landing page.
what happens is, of course, you use a multi-step form. So you capture the email address on the first step, and if people decide to bounce from there, they don't proceed to the next step. It's fine. You've already captured them in your email or in your database. So it's purely a enrichment exercise, and if they provide some details, it's a win-win for the business and for the brand. So it's not a forced thing. It doesn't have to be a forced thing, a required thing. But the fact that you can make it an optional thing and people don't tap into that is just shocking. The last thing that I've seen, obviously, quizzes is another big thing. People are also capturing people via quizzes, guided selling. There's a big debate going on around, is guided selling, are we making buyers sound like children? Like, why do I need to complete a quiz before you tell me the right product for me? Like, do people really need guided selling?
Well, it works really well for some kind of brand. Like we've got a couple of obviously things like
Correct. Yeah,
skincare brands works really well because of the the
100%.
exact product they want is very dependent on who they are, what skin type, color, etc. And that's the reason for that, I guess. As you say, I kind of hate those surveys for some other products. Like I know what I want.
Yeah.
Exactly. But obviously, people that complete a quiz, their buying intention signals are quite strong, because you're not going to complete a survey that takes 5 minutes if you're not showing a real intention to make
Yeah,
a potential purchase.
yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of ways you use this. Other things that I've seen it for, like pop-ups. I've seen people rerouting people to different sections on their website. Like once you've completed the form, they would reroute you to maybe like a live webinar, or they would then reroute you to an ebook. So it pretty much depends on your secondary goals. Primary, list growth, sales. What's the secondary? How can you feed your business with additional things using your pop-ups? That's our thinking in general.
Okay, but just further question back to Adam. I mean, okay, so that's how you make more of your web traffic. But what if are there, I think a lot of brands feel like they've got this big sort of anonymous following on social. How can you actually, what are the tactics you use to get that, to help you grow your email list without necessarily, pushing traffic to the site?
So here's my contrarian point of view on this.
Yeah.
It's not really, but I think it's logical. Just help people to buy, because what you really want is people to buy and experience the product. So you actually want to grow your database of active customers.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily want to inflate your list with people just for the sake of list growth. The end goal is to acquire more customers and grow your active customer database, so that then you can drive returning customer revenue from people who have actually bought and experienced the product. And I personally believe a lot of the concepts around nurturing the list is just fluffy nonsense. What we really want to do is just streamline the customer journey, make it really easy for people to make an informed decision to buy.
Yeah.
So I think the wrong question is, how can we grow our list?
Yeah.
The right question is, how can we get more people to buy the product? Because if you look at the returning customer revenue that you drive through email, it's generally heavily skewed towards people who've already purchased the product, which obviously makes sense. So the focus should be getting as many people as possible to buy the product once, and then using email as a channel to just have good timing, good reminders, and provide a good experience, which not many people do, so that when the timing is right for people who haven't purchased, they're ready. So that's my
It's actually really
slightly
excellent
contrary
point
point of view.
whatever, the whole point really of using a Shopify store to kind of aggregate your online sales is that whatever channel you're using to purchase, whether it's TikTok Shop or coming from Amazon or whatever, at the point of purchase, the user is basically opting in to give you their email, and they may or may not opt
Exactly.
into your marketing list. But that, as you say, those are the valuable people for your list. Those are the people who are going to buy again. So kind of, don't try and distract them from that first purchase, get them to do it. But obviously then you can use your email list and then your Shopify store to actually, basically increase your margin on the subsequent purchases.
Yeah. Now, not downplaying list growth is not important, because at the end of the day, right, we want to grow, especially our owned mediums, as big as possible. It's just another communication channel to deliver like a highly profitable message. But the end goal of, as we know, of list growth is to get people to buy. So we don't need to inflate our list for the sake of it. We want to get like high intent people who believe in what we're doing, and then make them convert at the right time.
And just to throw in one of my favorite topics in the live stream, a little dig at the people doing kind of third-party email lists. So one of the tragedies, obviously, of products like Wonderkind that are kind of pushing people who have low engagement is that, again, and it's really interesting when I talk to a lot of brands about this. Like, as you say, they see it as this really like, oh, but they're growing our list. We're really dependent on this. How will our email marketing even function if we don't have all these, extra emails that come into the list? But obviously, by very definition, those emails are the fluffiest of the fluffy. They haven't necessarily even filled in a pop-up. They've just simply visited your site and non-consenting, your email has been added to the list. So I think that's the antithesis of what we're talking about here. Like, let's build a list of customers who actually engage and want our product, not just people who are sort of very top of funnel wandering around the site.
And give people a reason. If you want to really grow your list, and it's not the right time for someone to buy, well, give them a reason to sign up beyond sales. Give people exceptional content, build a media entity around your brand, and deliver that content and media over email as a distribution channel.
Yeah. And I was just as an example, I was on the Liquid Death site just now because I was doing a demo of a particular feature for a client, and that's what a lot of their messaging is about. Like, there's this whole cult around sort of being on their list, and like it's not, it's obviously a brand that's moved far beyond just like you're going to get discounts to like you're going to get this whole lifestyle thing by being part of our list.
Yeah. This is something that it's a topic for another day, but I think marketers, we have this naive notion that we have magical powers of persuasion.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to someone yesterday having lunch, another marketer, and the 95-5 rule, right, in advertising. If you see a pair of swim shorts outside in the middle of winter, not for you, Wiehan, it's a different time of year where you are, but it doesn't matter if it's on 95% off, because the timing's not there. And I think a lot of us try and shoehorn and force people and manipulate them into things when they're just not ready. So the intent has to be there. And then obviously the goal of much of marketing is just to make sure that you're top of mind when the intent is there. So you do that by, one, obviously having product market fit, and two, having an exceptional customer experience and strong memory recall. So less selling all the time and more just positively promoting your brand. There's many ways to do that.
To square the conversation back to the start, I think that that is where social and email have a joint purpose. That they can be there to sort of keep your brand top of mind. They don't need to be, as you say, directly selling to customers, but they are there to sort of make sure that when that buyer is in the market, obviously certain brands have the luxury of knowing when that's going to be. Some brands have said highly seasonal purchasing. If you're swimwear, as you say, like you're going to be people starting to pack for their summer holidays, you're in market. I mean, with Little Data, like we don't know when our clients are going to be in market. We don't really have any external buying signals that says they're going to be in market. So we just need to be out there all the time, for the 5% of customers at any one time that are in consideration.
Absolutely agree.
Well, I think we're out of time, but thank you both for coming on. It's been an awesome chat, and I hope to continue working with you both on the email marketing and the social content, and I think we can make the best of both. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Cheers, guys. Thank